In today's news, Apple drops a bunch of betas, and when are we getting our blooming event? I'm Dave, and I simplify Apple so that everything just works for you. And if you want the latest Apple leaks, news and rumours every weekday at 12 UTC, like this video, subscribe to the channel, and ring my bell. So first up, iOS 15.1 Beta 3 enables the native ProRes capture for iPhone 13 Pro and Pro Max in the camera app, although you'll need to enable it over the settings app if you want to give it a try. So it's under settings, camera, formats, and then just flick the process switch over there. Bear in mind, however, that if you're going to try this, every minute of 10-bit HDR ProRes that you record on your iPhone is going to take up 1.7 gigabytes of storage, as long as you're okay with 1080p. If you want to go up to 4K, you can bump that up to 6 gigabytes, but only if you sprung for the 256 gig or larger storage option on your iPhone. Apple also only seems to be giving the option of ProRes 422HQ, which is one of the highest quality versions of ProRes you can do. Of course, if you don't run the betas and you have an iPhone 13 Pro or Pro Max, you can use the Filmic Pro app to shoot ProRes too, because as of this week, they have given the option for ProRes Proxy, ProRes LT, 422 and 422HQ, giving a lot more file quality and size options, but you don't get the native Dolby Vision recording with that, so if that HDR is important to you, avoid that one. On a more personal note, I'm a massive fan of Filmic Pro. It is what we are recording this video on right now on my iPhone 12 Pro Max, which is why we're not using ProRes. On the subject of beta camera changes, there is also now a macro toggle that sits in the settings menu, so you can have control of whether you want Apple to switch that for you. And on the subject of alternatives, the Halide camera app gives you some of that macro goodness regardless of whether you even have an iPhone 13 or not. So that might be worth a try as well if you want to have a play with that kind of feature and take some pictures of leaves, because that seems to be what macro is for. Over to the Mac, and macOS Monterey Beta 9 has been released to developers, with Monterey set to bring a redesigned Safari browser, shortcuts on the Mac, focus modes, quick notes, AirPlay to the Mac, and universal control. Universal control, however, has probably been the most impressive part of the new macOS experience, and it still hasn't been enabled in the betas, although there is a workaround that's allowed it to work partially since Beta 5, so this feature might well be delayed, or maybe Apple's just holding it back so that the full impact of this magical feature is just shown off on launch day, rather than having us pesky YouTubers showing it off all the way through the beta phase and making it a lot less exciting on release day. If that's the case, it must be absolutely bulletproof behind the scenes in testing. I'm not convinced that's what's happening. tvOS also got its Beta 2 version, which has re-enabled SharePlay testing, one of the marquee features at WWDC that also didn't release on the 0.0 shipping. This allows you to synchronize watch parties with friends remotely. Finally, for the news section, Apple's investor relations call is scheduled for Thursday the 28th of October, so let's see what that could mean for our missing invitations. As it looks pretty solid that we're not getting an October the 12th event as much as we wanted it, October the 19th and October the 26th are now on the table. Now, Google has an event planned for the 19th for that Pixel 6, which we talked about yesterday, and a lot of people have said that Apple wouldn't want to compete with that, although I would say it's barely competition. But because Apple's investor call falls on the 28th, they would likely want to be able to comment on the strong demand for these new products that went on sale for pre-order on October the 22nd, for delivery on the 29th, with influencers most likely getting their review samples and embargoes lifting for their reviews on the 26th or 27th. Now, assuming that Apple was unaware of the Google event date, I don't think they would change their plans last minute to avoid it, because that would throw off like worldwide logistics that have probably been booked in months ahead of time, all the marketing media that they've probably bought in and booked. Does all that make sense? Because if it does come on the 26th instead of the 19th, that is going to be because that's what Apple had planned, not because the Pixel event got dropped when they wanted to announce their next generation of Macs. There's been talk of gentlemen's agreements behind the scenes, and that could be the case. However, it's also not really a competing product. We're talking about a Pixel phone versus MacBooks and the Mac Mini, hopefully, and a bunch of other stuff. Dylan DKT is apparently also saying that they are rushing to get that Mac Mini ready so it can be announced and launched at the event too, which is fabulous because that's really what I would quite like. But let me know what you are most excited about at that event. I'm not going to go through all the M1X stuff again, because apparently you guys are getting bored of it now. But let's move into your questions. Hashtag iCaveAnswers if you want a question answered in the next show. All the usernames that I wanted were taken. Asks, iCaveAnswers, the firmware for the AirPods has just been updated without any great fanfare, but do you think that Apple have silently prepared AirPods for something new? Lossless via AirPlay? And yes, I was supposed to talk about this yesterday, so I'm glad someone asked, because I headlined it at the top of the show, and then I completely forgot to talk about it in the actual video, and only realised during the premiere. Sorry about that, guys. But yes, so the stuff that was added yesterday to the firmware, as far as we know, as far as we can tell, is support for Find My on the AirPods Pro and the AirPods Max. And that's kind of all that we've seen. However, there's always some under the hood kind of bug fixes and things like that. But there's nothing to say that this couldn't happen. Now, this is something that John Prosser had talked about much earlier in the year, and I think it was while there was all the Epic case was going on, and basically Apple didn't want to get in trouble with antitrust, and basically having only their own headphones able to use lossless wirelessly. The difference here is that they would have to use Wi-Fi to connect to the headphones rather than using Bluetooth. And John seems to think that that technology is built in. I don't know, because I'm not a wireless engineer. If there's anyone out there that can actually see what's going on in the H1 chips and things like that, and if they are capable of doing wireless, AirPlay would absolutely allow you to do lossless wirelessly. We don't know if that technology is in there or not. If it is, fabulous. But that would definitely be a great thing to announce at one of these events, to say, oh, and by the way, if you've already got AirPods, they now work for lossless over AirPlay. Great. Josh asks, iCaveAnswers, when is your podcast coming to Apple Podcasts? Well, I need to have a chat with Saran. I think it's something that we definitely still want to do. We did one episode as kind of a pilot, and then we both got really busy and I got COVID and stuff. So I will catch up with Saran and we'll see what's going on with that. If you guys have watched the first episode of 941 Podcast, let me know what you thought. There was a decent chunk of people there, to be fair, for a channel that we had no subscribers on beforehand. We had no kind of track record. So I appreciate that. If you didn't watch it yet, go and have a quick look. I'll leave a link to it just up there. And as I say, that's it. If you want to get a question answered in a future video, all you need to do, hashtag iCaveAnswers down in the comment section with your question, and I will answer it on a video. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.